So after we analyze main principle about business process management and main tools related to business process mapping and performance measurement, the next step is to analyze which is one of the main levers that is used to support the business process execution, which is information systems. So information systems in companies are used to support effective execution and efficient execution of business process step, and that's exactly what you will do in this course with SAP. That's what we will cover. We'll cover first how ICT can support business processes. Then in particular we will focus on a particular type of ICT, so enterprise resource planning system, and then we'll start analyzing more the characteristic of a particular type of ERP, SAP, which will be the focus of this course, and then start deep diving into the SAP SAP navigation and SAP ERP data management. So, first of all, ICT can support the processes in two ways. First is helping in modeling the processes. So, as you can see in Signavio, ICT can support the business process execution in the sense that they can try to represent in a more effective way how processes are executed, which are the main actors involved, exactly as you saw in Signavio through the organizational chart, through the synchronization diagram and whatever. Second, they can support the execution, the actual execution of the process by simulating the workflow and by supporting the execution of some activities. Of course, from now on, the course will be focused on this second aspect, so we already deal with that. The second part of the course will be focused on how ICT can support the execution of business processes. In particular, the overall, let's say, set of ICT supporting business processes are called enterprise system. And we distinguish some type of enterprise system, like the one that you can see here. We can differentiate between enterprise resource planning, customer relationship management, supply chain management system, data warehouse, and business intelligence. What's the difference? The difference is that ERP, CRM, and supply chain management are examples of what we can call transactional system, which means that they record and they support execution of transaction process, while instead the data warehouse and business intelligence are examples of what we can call analytical system, which, let's say, support the decision making, taking decision about business process execution. There are other that you can think of, like intranet and extranet, product configurator, RFID technology. So all of these are technologies that support the execution of business process. So everything that is in ICT in a company usually is to support the flow and the execution of activities of a business process. In particular, at this regard, we distinguish between what is called online transaction processing and transaction processing systems, so all LTP and TPS, which, let's say, differentiate transaction and analytical system. In particular, the transactional system or online transaction processes or transaction processing system are all that we can include among the operational information system. So this type of system support the execution of operational processes like purchasing, like procurement, sales order entry, payroll, shipping. So everything that is operational is supported by online transaction processing or TPS system, which are systems that help the user, the actor of the process, to not execute manually the activities of the process. So they collect process data, they collect transaction that take place in the process, and they automate and make efficient the execution of the activities. All this information is included in what we call database management system, DBMS. This is an example of a database created by a transactional process. So the system allows, for example, a professor to include for each student of the course the final grade, which already is associated to some previous information in the field, including like the ID, the course name, and so on. The professor can take track of the progress of the class in terms of which student enrolled in the specific course take which type of grade. So that's the recording of the transaction of course management. This type of system are instead opposed to what we call online analytical processing, which instead are all the information system which support decision making in a company. So all the online analytical processing are decision support system which are designed to execute complex and ad hoc operation, analyzing, aggregating, and elaborating a large amount of data coming from the database management system of the transaction process. To do that, they use the data warehouse, so which are particular type of database which are able to store current and historical data for many sources, so the core operational transaction system of the company, and they are able to consolidate, standardize, transform this data across the enterprise, and let's say provide input and provide reporting and provide a summary of this data to support company decision making. This is an example. So for example, let's consider the case of Walmart. Walmart record transaction about quantity bought by customer, promotion, when do they bought, which type of channel. So this each single data is recorded in a particular database in a company. The role of the data warehouse is to create what is called a fact table, where all the different data are aggregated. You see, is represented in a cube, and they are all available for be further elaborated. Like, for example, if you want to know how many customers have bought today soap on the retail store near Pittsburgh, thanks to the data warehouse being able to aggregate and disaggregating the data, you are able to access this information through a fact table. Of course, transactional and analytical system are integrated, and this chart show exactly how. So on one side, OLTP record, which include all the modules supporting operational processes, record transaction activities and data and store them in the database management system, which are the operational databases. The operational databases collect all the information which is then collected and transformed and integrated in data warehouse, and it is in data warehouse where modules of OLAP information system take information to support decision-making activities. For these courses, business process management with ERP, we are dealing with enterprise resource planning system, which are focused on operational database. So this course deal with information system that support the execution of operational processes, and we will analyze the characteristic of data and databases that comes from the execution of these transactional processes. Instead, data analytics, big data courses are focused on how technology and information system take information from the operational database, transform them in data warehouse that are ready to be applied further technique to extract information useful for decision-making processes. So the idea from now on is to introduce the concept of enterprise resource planning and information system supporting business processes, so processes made by execution of activities which involve actor, which involve a system, which are automatized, and all the data, all the information, and all the documents created to the system are then stored at a central level in a database management system, which form the enterprise information system database of the company, which include all the data produced by the company, operational processes, procurement, human resource, finance, logistic, and production. These systems are called enterprise resource planning systems. So among the, let's say, the different type of, let's say, operational information system, transaction information system, like the broader set of this information system is called enterprise resource planning. Let's see with a very famous example of how enterprise resource planning systems were introduced in the company. There is a very popular example, a very popular case included in this work by Michael Hammer, 1990, Reengineering work, Don't Automate, Obliterate, which show exactly what happened when a company want to introduce an enterprise resource planning system, a transactional system to support the execution of processes. So in the early 1980s, Ford was looking at its account payable department closely, which was made by 400 people, which were all focused in managing accounts payable. And in this process, you have accounts payable, which deal with receiving, which deal with supplier, and purchasing. So purchasing asks for material to vendor, materials are received, and then the account payable department needs to pay the suppliers if everything is correct. So the process of course starts when a purchase order was sent to a supplier to require material. The purchasing department then sent a copy of this purchase order to the accounting department, because the accounting department need to be aware of what's going on, because it will be then responsible to pay the supplier. Then the supplier sends the goods. The goods are shipped and received by the company, and of course the accounts payable receive the receiving documents, so the fact that the goods were delivered. Then when let's say the goods are received and these match the purchase order with the goods requested, the supplier sends the invoice to the accounting department, which has now in its hand 3 documents, so the purchase order, the receipt document, and the invoice. And the accounts payable has the role of check and verify that these documents are aligned. When they verify that all the 2 documents are aligned, the account payable can pay the supplier for the goods that the supplier has sent to the company, and that was requested by the internal production. So with this functioning, the process was, let's say, perceived as inefficient and ineffective, because the 500 employees in the accounting department were spending most of their time to check the 3 documents and try to understand cause of eventual misalignment. So to do that, when misalignment were found, so to realize where the error was and which was the root, the main origin of the mistake, like weeks were needed. So an incredible effort and waste of time and resources were needed to understand where a misalignment were present and where it was originated. So Ford management were trying to review the procurement process and account payable process in order to better automate some of these activities. Because by automating these activities, there could have been an automatic check of misalignment, which could have focused more the people on value-adding activities instead of instead of manually check the mistake that were like spread all over the process. So they wanted to do it cheaper, cut cost, faster, reducing like the time spent by human resources, and better because with manual check some mistakes and some like missing aspect were possible. So the solution was introducing a technology, so introduce technology to automate the process. So that's how Ford re-engineered the process with automation. So when a purchase order was issued, procurement people were including in parallel this information in the system, which was not sent manually, paper-based to accounts payable, but it was included in the database. Then the vendor would have sent the goods to the production plant. When goods were received, the receiving area would have included in the same database, in the same system, information about the fact that goods were received. At that point, account payable just have to access the database and electronically check the purchase order and the receiving document, just to check that all the information were aligned and okay. So when the vendor would have sent the invoice, the account payable would have done the payment immediately, because checking an alignment between the documents in the process was quite simple, because everything was stored in a unique and shared database that could have been accessed by all the actors in the process. By doing this, so just by introducing a slow automation, so just an integrated and shared database accessible by all the actors, these were the result: information available and visibility from all the actors to the process, 75% reduction in head count of the process, which means that from 500 people needed to execute this process, now the need was 70% less. Simpler material control, faster time to include and to issue a purchase requisition, and less overdue payments, because I was able to pay faster my supplier. This is one of the first examples of the introduction of what is called enterprise resource planning system. So a suite of software application including modules that were helping in supporting the execution of internal organization transactions. You have just seen an example. So you have included a module and a database to support the execution of the procurement process. So broader, the enterprise resource planning system include all the software, application and database that support the execution of operational processes in the company. Enterprise resource planning system share a common process model to be implemented. So pre-uploaded in the software there is a model of the process to be executed, which cover all the activities that are needed to execute all the document, all the data that are needed to execute that process. ERP today are very transversal because there are customization across multiple industries, but when you think about an ERP, you can think about something like that. Okay, possibility to automate the process and the transposition of documents and data in a database for all the company processes: purchasing, production, logistics, sales and distribution, human resource, finance, and whatever. Of course, during time, the customization of the different application and suite of programs have been refined, because we have industry solutions. So you have enterprise resource system for construction, for pharmaceutical industries, for bank, for insurance company, and then you have instead more horizontal program, which are instead valid. So they have business process model which are valid for more than one industry. Then, of course, you are doing a supply chain management major, so you know that the scope of a company is not just within the company boundaries, but you need to look at supplier, at other partner in the network and customer. So that's why, let's say, extended solutions, so solution integrating more than one companies and processes that extend within more than one company has been created, like product lifecycle management for the development of product, supplier relationship management or SCM to manage relationship with the supplier, and customer relationship management for managing the relationship with the customers. This is how enterprise systems are distributed in a company, in particular for a this is an example for a manufacturing company. So you have supply chain management system that support supply relationship, product lifecycle management system that support development of new product, customer relationship management that instead are in the interface with the other customer, and then you have e-procurement system that support the execution of procurement process, order, delivery, invoice cycle, and these support procurement, manufacturing, and sales and distribution, which are the main supply chain management processes. Then you can have also some other like more technical and more like detailed system like CAD system that support design and engineering activities, MRP system that you should have seen in supply chain management for 5, so for material requirement planning, and DRP system which you should have analyzed in supply chain management for 5.5 to support distribution and logistics activities. Which is the value of an enterprise resource system? They create a common database which share and integrate information across the company. They can be extended with as many application and software as you want, so they are very modular. So companies can just use an application for sales and distribution, they can just use application for material management, they can just use application for production planning, or all the three. So you start from a shared database and you can, let's say, include and apply to this database modular application as far as you need and according to which are your company needs. And in particular, whenever you introduce an application, you bring in your company a predefined best practice and predefined workflow for a process that can, of course, be adapted, but is, let's say, need as much as possible reflected in how the process is executed in the company, because this comes from the experience of the software and of the vendor provider that has seen this process executed in many contexts, and this workflow should actually reflect a summary of best practices encountered in different contexts. As I told you, ERP system help realizing the extended view of the enterprise, because again, each ERP system in a company is integrated with the customer relationship management of the company, which puts the company in contact with this customer, and the customer has a supplier relationship management or supply chain management system that puts the company in contact with its supplier. These systems need to be integrated with the ERP of the company, which in turn is linked to the CRM, which is in link with the supplier relationship management of the customer. So advancing the development of this system help to realize the extended view of the enterprise, because information system help different companies in the network to be connected and integrated in the execution of their processes. If you want to look at the main vendor providing a solution to support execution of the business processes, this is the Gartner quadrant for ERP vendor provider, and you can see that the most important one is SAP, which is the tool that we use in this course. Then you have Oracle, that it has a more limited ERP, but is very easy. So these two axes are easiness to execute the process through the ERP, and this axis is how much complete are the module provided. So SAP and IFS are very excellent in providing user-friendly application, very complete in terms of process coverage. Oracle is very user-friendly, but it has less option than SAP. Then here you have other vendors that instead are more focused in providing, let's say, process-specific applications, usually very technical, so more difficult to be executed. Microsoft is very broad, but according to Gartner, usually more difficult to be used and introduced in a company compared to, for example, SAP. And here you can see the coverage in terms of industry. You see that SAP covers almost all the industry. There are some lack in healthcare and business services, like consulting, for example, when instead all the others, if you exclude Oracle, they have lack. You see there is a lot of gray area in some of the industries. So SAP is the one that covers most of the industries. You can see that, of course, manufacturing is the industries most covered by most of the provider, because it's the most developed, and traditionally is the industry where ERP systems were first introduced. Finance and insurance instead is the one where there is more lack of broader and complete solution, which makes sense because usually finance and insurance are the sector where activities are more like manually and unstructurally executed.